In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at the plate production feature found in the software. We're going to be designing ourselves a simple conference badge template, like the one you can see on screen. It's going to contain a company logo, a name field, and a department field. We will then apply some simple toolpaths, and then with that, we're going to then use the plate production feature to then import a CSV file, which we've exported from a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and we're then going to use that to then create multiple badges automatically with all the details and toolpaths readily applied, like the one you can see on screen. So let's start by opening a new copy of the software, and for this we're going to be creating a new file, and I'm going to specify a width of 12 inches and a height of 8 inches. For our thickness of material, we're going to be imagining that we're creating these conference style badges with quite a thin acrylic material. So I'm going to specify an 1/8 of an inch for the thickness of material. We're going to be working from the top of the block, so specify that for the Z0, and for the XY data position, we're going to be starting off from the lower left. We are going to be working in inches, and once we've specified all those options, just press OK. We can now start to think about creating a conference badge template design, which we're then going to use to then create multiples of using the plate production feature. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create our outline for our conference badge. So for this, I'm just going to use the draw rectangle tool. I'm just going to sketch out just a rectangle down the lower left, and then I'm going to enter some values within the form. So I'm going to specify the width of our rectangle to be 2.5 inches, and then the height I'm going to have as 2 inches, and we can click apply. I may even want to have a radius external corner, and I'm just going to choose the radius for this as 1/4 of an inch, and then click apply. So when I'm happy with a basic outline for our badge, we can just click close. So now we can start to think about the contents of our conference badge. So I'm just going to start off by importing some vectors for the Vectric logo. Now this may not be something that you design in the software, it may be something that may have been designed for you and sent to you in vector format. So we can just go ahead up to File on the toolbar, and I'm just going to go to Import and then Import Vectors, and I'm just going to select the Vectric logo in EPS format and then press Open. Now all the characters are going to come as separate vectors, so to make sure that they stay in line with each other, I'm just going to press the letter G on the keyboard to group those as one, and then I can then freely move that around our badge. What I would like to do is I would like to align the Vectric logo centrally in the center of our badge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to select the logo, and I'm going to hold Shift down on the keyboard and then select the outline of our badge. And I'm just going to go to the alignment tools to center that, so select that icon there, and then once we're in here, we can then use this button here to then center the text within the last object that we selected, like so. And what we could do now is we can close the alignment tab, and we can just deselect and then just select the text, and then we can use the arrow keys on the keyboard just to jog that up towards the top of our badge. And by eye we can just align that to wherever we would like in the vertical space that we have within our badge. Once happy with our logo, we can then move on to specifying the name and department variables, which we're then going to use for the plate production to automatically fill in with the names and department details of the people that we've got listed in our database. So we've got two options. We can either use the draw text tool, or we can use the draw text within a vector box. If we do choose to use the draw text tool, we have to keep in mind that any text that's going to be automatically generated by the plate production tool is going to be limited by the fact that within the draw text tool we have to specify a specific text type or font size, if you wish, for any characters that are going to be displayed. This means anyone with a particularly long name is going to have their text more than likely burst outside the confines of our badge area, and will then have to be manually resized to fit within our badge. However, the easiest tool to use for automatically applying text within our badge would be the draw text within a vector box. With this tool, we're not restricted by text height. With this tool, we create a box for our text to sit inside and it will automatically resize itself dependent on how long the character string is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select our outline for our badge. You will notice that the bounding box dimensions has now changed to the box width and height that are created for our badge outline. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and type in our variables, which will then be picked up by the plate production tool to replace with different names and departments. So to do this, we need to type in our text here, and we need to start any variable that we're going to specify with a double exclamation mark and end with a double exclamation mark. So I'm just going to type in my first variable, and that's going to be for our name. So I'm just going to click into the text box, and I'm going to just type 2 exclamation marks, then name, and then I'm going to finish with 2 exclamation marks. Now that will then be picked up by our plate production tool. So we can then go ahead, once we've specified our text or our variable, we can then go ahead and select our fonts and all the other options that are available to us. So for this, as it's going to be an engraving, I'm going to use a single line font, and I'm going to choose the Helvetica 3-line font. And from here you can choose the text alignment and different margins that the text will abide to within the box that we've selected. I'm just going to leave that blank and just click apply and then close. So now we've got our first variable. Let's deselect that and then select the outline again, and we can then create our second. So let's go back into the draw text within a vector box, and we can specify our last one. So we start with a double exclamation mark and just type in department, and then finish with 2 exclamation marks. I'm going to use a single line font again, but this time I'm going to use the Helvetica 1-line font. So just select that. I'm going to keep the options the same, and then I'm just going to click apply. You'll notice straight away that in the 2D view that our text has gone straight over the top of our last variable name that we specified. So if we just click close on that and just zoom in on the 2D view, just select the text, and what we can do then is we can just manually jog that down to where we would like this to be in our badge area. So I'm just going to jog this down to around about there, and then I'm going to select the name field, and I'm just going to move that down as well, so it's just more or less in the center between the logo and the department. So once we've done that, just deselect all those. I'm just going to press F on the keyboard to zoom to fit. So now we've got our basic design for our conference badge template. We can now go ahead and apply some toolpaths to them, so that then when we come to use the plate production feature, those also get replicated as well, saving us an extra job. So let's go over to the toolpaths tab, and what we can do is we'll first of all create our cutout path. So let's just select the outline for our badge and then go to the profile toolpath. So as we're going to be cutting through the whole of the material, we do want to start on the top of the material, so 0, 0 in there. And for our cut depth, just going to type in Z, then press the equals key on the keyboard to bring up the depth of our material that we've set, which is 1/8 of an inch. I'm then going to go ahead and select my engraving tool. So I'm going to go press the select button to open our tool database, and I'm going to go down to the engraving tools under the Imperial section and select our engraving tool. It's going to accept the default values here. Obviously, if you do plan on running anything like this, obviously make sure all these speeds and feeds are relevant to your setup, and then just press OK. I'm going to select to machine on the outside of the selected vectors, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down past these options, and I'm going to come to the Add Tab section, as I want to add tabs, a couple of tabs, one on each side of the badge, so that once we've actually cut out all of our badges, we can just apply a bit of pressure to each badge, and they should just pop away from the acrylic. So I'm going to specify the length of our tabs to be 0.1 of an inch, and the thickness of the tabs, I want them to be around about 1/3 of 1/8 of an inch. Now, if you don't exactly know what the decimal value is of that, we can simply work that out with the built-in math library. So we can just use Z, representing the thickness of our material, and we can use the / or the divide symbol, and then just type in the number 3 and then the equals key. And that will then give us the decimal representation of 1/3 of an eighth or an inch. So once we've done that, we can go to Edit tabs, and then we can manually select where we would like each tab. So I'm going to have one this side, and then I'm just going to have one this side as well. And if we find that we've put a tab where we don't actually want it, we can come over the tab and then just hold the mouse down, and we can either move it around the board, or if we don't actually want a tab, we can actually then just hover over it and also click it once, and then that will delete it. As I want 2 tabs, one either side of the badge templates, I'm going to just leave it as they are at the moment. So once we're happy with our tabs, we can simply click close, and then we can come down to the bottom of the form, just give this a name. So I'm just going to call this cutout, and then we can click calculate, and you'll see in the 2D view and the 3D view we've now got our toolpath representing the cutout path for our badge. So I'm just going to click close on the preview toolpath form and go back to the 2D view, as next I want to start selecting our text to engrave. We could select all the text here and then do one simple quick engrave toolpath, but as I want to demonstrate 2 different options within the engraving toolpath form, I'm just going to select the single line text font here. So I'm just going to select both of these, and then I'm going to come over to the quick engraving toolpath form. And the first option I'm going to choose is our tool. So I'm going to go and press the select button to open our tool database, and under the specialist tools I'm going to use a diamond drag tool, as these are perfect for doing engravings, as normally come spring loaded so that you can engrave over uneven and around round surfaces. So I'm just going to click the diamond drag tool and press OK, and I'm going to select a pressure to apply to the tool of 0.1 inches. And as we've got single line text selected at the moment, we can't exactly use the fill option, as for the fill option we need to actually have closed vectors for the fill to be in between. Now as these are all individual lines that have built up the text, we can't fill a single line. So for this we're going to select to outline the text, which will then put the drag tool on the actual vector itself. So just select that. We're not going to be using a nose cone, and what we're going to do is we're just going to give this a name. So I'm just going to put outline text, and then just press calculate, and that will then, as you'll see in the 2D and the 3D view, apply the toolpaths for our name and department variables. So once we've done that, click close, and go back to the 2D view, and we can now select our logo. So let's select the logo, go back into the quick engraving toolpath. We're going to use the same tool, we're going to use the same pressure, but this time instead of using the outline option, we're going to use the fill option because we have closed vectors. And what we can do is we can select to also have a hatch or an offset option. I'm just going to choose the hatch at a 45-degree angle, and again we can just give this a name. So I'm just going to put this as fill logo and press calculate. And if we just zoom in a bit, you'll be able to see that the toolpath has actually been overlaid, and you can see where it has hatched the inside of our text. And also if we do that in the 3D view as well, you should be able to see that first of all it will outline the text, and then it will go ahead and fill with the hatching. So now we have all of our toolpaths that we need for our plate production. So what we can go ahead and do now is go back over to the drawing tab, and then we can go to the 2D view, just press F on the keyboard to zoom to fit. And what we can do is we can simply go ahead and select all these vectors here and go straight into the plate production tool. So let's select all of our vectors. We may want to go back over to the toolpaths just to make sure that we don't have any toolpaths obstructing our view. As you could see that the fill logo toolpath was actually still being displayed in the 2D view. So now I've got all my vectors selected, I'm going to go into the plate production tool, and this is where we get to set our options. Now you'll see that the sheet size, this is the size of the sheet that we're going to be using for producing all of our badges on there, and it's already picked up the size of our job. So a width of 12 inches and a height of 8 inches. It has also picked up our plate size from the outermost vector, that being the width of 2.5 inches and the height of 2 inches that we selected. The next option in line is our sheet margins. These are the margins that are going to be applied around the outside of our sheet. So if we select to have a 1/4 inch margin on the left here, and we actually tick this option to have equal margins, it will then set the top, right and bottom also with a 1/4 inch. So any badges won't start until a 1/4 inch into the actual material. If we want to obviously specify different margins dependent on whether it's at the top, right or bottom or left, we just simply untick that and then edit each of these here. But I'm just going to keep these as equal margins. The next option available to us is the spacing. Now this is the spacing in between each of the individual badges themselves. So I'm just going to specify a 1/4 inch in between each of the badges here, and that's for left to right, so that'll be the horizontal spacing, and then this is for the vertical spacing. Again, I'm just going to make it equal, so a 1/4 inch. We can also specify the number of plates or badges that we're going to actually manufacture on this one sheet. At the moment, it's already got the auto calculate option ticked, so that's as many as we can fit in with all the margins included here. But we can also, if we wish, to untick this and specify the number that we would like. I'm going to keep this on auto calculate. The next option is one of the most useful options as well, which is the toolpath options. Now this, if it finds that there are toolpaths applied to any of the vectors that we've selected, it will automatically replicate those each time it creates a new badge. So I'm going to make sure that the create toolpaths option is selected here, as I do want it to automatically apply toolpaths for each individual badge or plate that it replicates. So let's move on to the data to engrave options. Now this is where we get to select our data which we wish to import and then apply different information to our variables which have been picked up here, as you'll notice, name and department. And we also get to choose what type of information we're actually importing and what the separator value is going to be, as the information that we're going to be importing needs to be in text format, plain text. So what we've done here is we've taken an Excel spreadsheet and then we've exported that as a CSV file, which is a comma separated values file. So if we go to import a file from the projects folder, you'll find in there is a plate production.csv, and if we just select that and press open, now you'll automatically find that it's on by default as a comma, which is what this file is. It's a comma separated values file. And then the next important bit of information is to see if the first row of our information is actually the column names. Now as you can see, the column names on the first row is first name, surname, department, age and sex. As you can see, then underneath we've got a name, surname, the department they work in, the age and the sex of that person. So I'm going to make sure that the tick is in the box here for first row is column names. And you can see automatically it's picked up that we have 14 members in this database. So once we've done that, we can then go ahead and then select how we want to assign our variables. So first of all, I'm going to select the name variable, and then what we can do underneath, we can choose where that's going to be assigned to in the column values here. So if I just select the drop down, you'll see that all the column names are represented here as well. So we've got first name, surname, department, age and sex. And we also have one that's been automatically generated by the software called counter. Now this is useful if we need to know what number in the fields of information that we've got this person actually came. So for instance, Brian at the top there would be number 1, and then George McCarthy would be second. So that's useful if we need to have a number representation of where this person was in the fields of information. As I don't actually need the counter for this, I'm just going to select the first name column to represent our variable name. And then for the variable department, I'm then going to go ahead and then assign that to the department column. So just select that as well. And that's all the information that we need to then go ahead and replicate this multiple times with all the toolpaths and names from the file that we imported. So all we need to do now is hit the calculate button, and the software will automatically generate all the plates, as you can see. So all we do now is just simply click close on the plate production form, and you'll see that the plate production feature has now replicated all the badges with all the information on, and you'll see that it's also applied the 1/4 inch outline or margin around the actual edge of our material, and you'll also see that we've also got a 1/4 inch dividing each of the plates. Another thing that you'll notice, because that we used the draw text within the vector box, you'll notice that all the text has automatically been resized due to the amount of characters that were being constrained within that box or area. So you'll notice that accounts, the text is much larger than the product development, and this has automatically already been applied due to how long the actual character string was. You'll notice that it's done that for all the names as well. Another thing that you'll notice though, if you remember that it did say that we did have 14 badges that we could have created from that plate productions, but I can only see 12 on the screen that we've got at the moment. But if you look over to the layers tab, you'll see that we've actually got multiple sheets that have been generated. So if I just turn off sheet 1 and then I turn on sheet 2, you'll see that there is where the other 2 badges have been created. And the same actually goes for when we actually come to go over to the toolpaths tab. So if we go over to the toolpaths tab, you'll also see that all the toolpaths have been generated with S1 or S2 attached to them. That being S1 standing for sheet 1, and the cutout path and outline, and then the fill. And also then we've got the toolpath for sheet 2. And all we would do from here is simply just go to the save toolpath option, and we would save our cutout and then the engraving toolpath separately, as they both use different tools. So first of all, I'll save out the cutout path, as that's the one already selected. Choose our post processor and press to save the toolpath. So I'm just going to call this S1 cutout as it is standard, and just press the save button. I'll then choose the option to output all visible toolpaths to one file, deselect the cutout, as I know that that uses a different tool to the outline and fill logo, and then I can use the same toolpath to actually go ahead and cut both of these 2 different bits of text. Again, select our post processor, save the toolpath as S1 outline text, that's fine, and then we can go ahead and do the same for sheet 2 and run those separately as well. When we feel that we're at a stage to go ahead and run this on the machine, just make sure, as always, go ahead and save your work so that you can go back if you need to in the future and make edits to those. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this plate production and just hit the save button on that. And that really is all the information that I can give for the plate production tool. So I hope you've learned something here, and thank you for watching.